I believe in aliens. I believe in exorcism. Because you know that what trauma's like because you've been through it, and that's why you're like that. Society today where it's like, how do I fix this the fastest I can fix it? Why do you need to be surrounded by shit all the time? Like, why?
Welcome to Tea with Tori. I'm your host, Tori, and today the tea is hot.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Tea with Tori. I just fumbled the fucking bag and false started us. It was a quick little false start, but we're back. I'm here with the amazing Julia Rose. You guys asked, and you're like, you guys always hang out. How have you not done a podcast? Because we're hanging out. We're actually enjoying our time and not showing it to you guys. But you are, of course, asked every single question under the sun for the past 3 years about the amazing man that you date, but quite honestly, I don't give a fuck. He's great in his own right, but today we are here to talk about you and the amazing things that you do and how you've become who you are. So not everyone starts out living in LA, living the glamorous life. Some people do. That's super dope for you guys if you do that, but a lot of us start with kind of a success story. So I want to start with kind of like the inception of Julia Rose. Like, how did you go from Julia in Texas, chilling with her homies, riding horses, rural life, to like, I'm in LA, flashing DC.
That's a big jump.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you...
Is this crazy? Because I really don't think I've ever had a chance to talk about like really any of like I feel like I maybe have touched on it a little times, but I'm excited to like really jump in and talk about it. So
like,
I mean,
how?
So small town Texas girl, right? I grew up in a town that you could literally, it's called Hazlet, Texas. You blink, you miss it kind of town.
Yeah.
We literally grew up like cow tipping and just doing those things. Like Walmart was like the hangout spot. Sonic was the hangout spot. But I did go to a pretty big high school, played softball out in high school, was an athletic trainer, like just kind of very into sports. Obviously, like football in Texas is more like a religion. So I grew up kind of one of the boys, really. Like I was friends with a lot of different people. I wasn't really like with like the popular group or, you know, however you want to put it. I was more kind of kept to myself, but definitely one of the bros. Like I was an athletic trainer. I was on the football, like basically on the football team, on the field every game, and just grew up really like loving being one of the boys. And now I look, I'm like, I'm still one of the boys. We're both still one of the boys.
Literally. When did kind of, for me, it was like 7th grade. I feel like I went to sleep and I woke up and I had like boobs. And that's when it went from like the guys being like, yo, Tori, what's up? To like, oh Tori. And I literally didn't comprehend what had happened, because to me just like my body changed but nothing inside of me had changed. Like, when did it start going from you being like one of the boys to like you started getting sexualized by the boys?
I'd have to say, so in high school I did a switch. Like basically we had 2 big high schools that were right next to each other, and I ended up going play softball for one. That was like, it was all kind of like in the same neighborhood. Like we'd all see each other from the high schools. But my neighborhood went to one high school, but I drove to the other high school to play softball. So everyone at my neighborhood went to the other school, and I didn't get to see them a whole lot. But then I think it was like the summer after my freshman year, I went back to that old high school, and people they thought I was a new kid. They didn't really recognize me because I went in my freshman year. I have fuzz on my nose. I went in
you
my
don't
freshman...
have anything fuzzy on this set. Yeah, I have no idea where that came from. One of your 80 pillows.
But no, so my freshman year, I had braces, I had a bowl cut, I don't think I had any boobs my freshman year. I can't really remember.
Pause, Casey. We're going to send you pictures.
No, we won't, because they don't exist.
They definitely, there's some type of picture of you in a baseball cap.
It was definitely like the MySpace. Like I had like black hair just cut like very like.
Oh, scene kid. You listen to Paramore and My Chemical Romance.
And I wore etnies, and I ripsticked.
Hot Topic.
Do you remember the ripstick?
Yes.
I wasn't allowed to go in Hot Topic. I was not allowed to go into like stores like Spencer's. Not allowed to go into Spencer's or Hot Topic, because I grew up really conservative too. My family was super conservative.
The demons are in there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So and so I went to the school. I think just like meet up with some old friends, and like I had old like guys I had crushes on come up to me and be like, "Oh, you new here?" I'm like, "Bitch, no." You literally, like one guy I remember specifically, I had wrote a letter. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I was in middle school, and I like letters. Like I'm an old soul. I like to keep things old fashioned.
Shocking writing.
And I wrote him a like not a love letter. It was not a love letter. It was just kind of like admitting I had a crush on him. And this is so embarrassing. And I like put it on the lunch table and like went to like, you know, on the table, you all have your table that you sit at lunch. And this is middle school. I'm in like 6th grade, and like go to my other table and like just sitting there. and he was on the football team, so all the football players came and they ripped up the letter and came and like put it back on, like all laughed at me, and just like it was just like my moment of like, okay, like it was one of those moments where you just are like, I understand how this is gonna work now.
Literally.
Don't tell anyone your feelings.
No, I literally did a workshop called Landmark where like you go through your first childhood trauma of like, when's the first time where you were told that like your feelings weren't valid or like that you were not good enough? And did you ever shake that mentality? And I really looked back and I was like, oh shit, I still very much am operating off of the thing that I felt like early in my childhood that first told me like I wasn't good enough, and like what I was doing was not like the way things were supposed to be done. Like I was going to be negatively impacted if I didn't kind of get in line and act like everyone else. And I feel like as you grow up, it's kind of your job to like unlearn the things that the world has taught you. Because when you see like those kids in like kindergarten and pre-K, they're just like literally themselves, like running around in superhero costumes. Like, I don't want that snack, I want this snack. Like very sure of what they want.
Very unapologetically themselves.
Unapologetically them, like markers on their face, fucking crumbs on their mouth, not giving a fuck. And like the world kind of teaches you in society and school.
I'm like, what is going on?
Someone is hammering pipes. That's the only thing that can be happening.
My freaking...
The one thing I can tell you is these mics are very fucking good. And
no, I can. That's what I can hear. It's so clear. I'm like, what is... I literally feel like we have like World War III going on in the background.
We do. That's training camp, though. That's pretty much training camp in a nutshell. It's like trying to find our quiet space and like our alone time in the chaos and the madness.
But we're here. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was literally like,
no,
someone's literally like banging. Okay.
I'm like, squirrel.
See, what is that? Is someone in like the kitchen area?
They're rigging lights downstairs.
Oh, so we're just gonna have to hear that. Okay, sorry guys in advance.
So, if you guys don't know, Julia is on BS with Jake Paul with my boyfriend. They are co-hosts to Jake, and right now, if you hear banging, it's because downstairs they are setting up for the future episode that is happening either tonight or tomorrow. So just ignore that. That is the guerrilla warfare lifestyle that I live, of making shit happen on the road and why my shit's portable. But yes, we're going back into the inception of Julia Rose. Yes.
Yeah. No. So I like the point you're making of like being unapologetically yourself, and if you healed from those traumas and stuff, because I will say, ladies and men, whatever, it comes full circle where that same guy that ripped up my love letter messaged me on Facebook. I'd say it was like 21, whatever, when I moved to LA, and just was like, hey, not sure if you remember me, but like, and I literally would be like, yeah, I remember you. You broke my heart when I was in 6th grade.
Fuck you, Dylan.
But you literally have those parts where you're like, it just all comes full circle. And in those moments where you're like, damn, that really sucks, it definitely comes back, and like you realize like those moments kind of made you who you are, and they are what they are.
So for not a very long time, but for a pretty like solid time, I would say like when you really started getting out there as like eyeballs were on you, it was after you were on the reality show. You became like the advocate for Free the Nipple. And not only were you the advocate for Free the Nipple, you were like, free the nipple on social media. And fuck you, Playboy. I'm making a magazine. And not only am I making a magazine, it's going to be more successful than you, and people are going to care about that shit more. So this is kind of like, you've started, the boy ripped up your letter, you moved to LA, you went on a reality show, you were like, titties out, let's make a magazine. Now we're kind of talking about it after the magazine. So what was your mentality when you started Shag Mag, that you were like, this is going to be different than everything else? Because you've had a couple people that have tried to start magazines and it's just never been as successful. Shag Mag is obviously the most successul influencer female to start a magazine. What was your mentality behind starting that you think made you more successful than the other people that have tried?
I think it had to do with so I got a call from Playboy, and I went to Playboy's headquarters and I met with them, and they were kind of giving me the rundown, and they wanted me to be, I think, a December feature. And they just kind of, I wasn't excited. Like, they didn't want to pay me well. They didn't want to like, there wasn't really like any spark behind, and I loved Playboy. I was like,
glass ceiling you were getting.
Yeah, I was like ready for that opportunity when they presented it. It was just kind of like anticlimactic. It was like, I was sitting in Playboy's headquarters and I was going through the magazine, and I'm like, it's not really like Hugh Hefner Playboy. It doesn't really have that magic behind it anymore. And I was like thinking to myself, and I was like, what would the modern day Playboy look like today? Because old school Playboy, it worked for its time, but they didn't really like do anything. They didn't modernize it. They didn't keep up with like social media and like the new wave of models and like the girls. And so I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in the next Playboy. I want to create the next Playboy. So I basically went home. I remember literally diving into Hugh Hefner and like what he did and like the things that worked for Playboy, and I wanted to modernize it and kind of take these females that wanted to shoot sexy hot content but wanted to do it in a safe place that was led by women, and like thinking what would I want as talent when I come to set, and like really diving into that of like making sure talent is one paid for, because like a lot of these companies, they don't want to pay the models. They're like, oh, you get the exposure. Okay, fuck your exposure, like that's great, but these models also, they deserve to be paid
and
for
make a living for
and make a living for what they're doing, and like it's their body, you know, like I don't want to take that lightly. And so I think really, really caring for like the talent, the models, and really diving into like sex and taboo topics, because that's what Playboy did in their generation, is they dove into the taboo topics, and like as much as it was like the hot content of girls.
I get Playboy for the articles.
Yeah, I really wanted to dive into like the writing and like the really diving into topics that people weren't talking about still to this day. And one of the best comments that I did get from Shag Mag was, I came for the pictures, but I stayed for the articles. And that meant a lot to me, because at the time, I was writing every single piece in the magazine. When we started off, I was writing
That's amazing.
sex,
I feel like people don't
dating.
know that.
No, I mean,
I know that you pose, obviously, because they see it,
Yeah.
but like I feel like a lot of people assume that you hired the writers, or like it was
No.
articles you found. Like I don't feel like people really understand that like this was a passion project for you, not just to appear in it physically, but to also put your mental into it.
Yeah, and I mean, I was doing everything from booking talent, booking production, booking the shoots. At first, I was doing just like hair and makeup, and then finally I had, shout out Britton. She's literally changed. She's one of the first people that literally, she's the only one here right now, but she's one of the first people that actually came onto like set to actually help. And I remember she was even running around. We had one shoot with bubbles, and she's like touching up girls and holding the bubble machine. I was like, this is my girl, man. Like I need help. And
I'm like, don't worry, Britton will get her own podcast.
I know. Britton needs her own podcast.
Literally, though.
She's, you know how many times, because Britton helps oil the models and oils me, and how many times guys come and like, I want Britton's job. I'm like, no, you don't.
Sure you don't, my guy.
But I did everything. I was doing wardrobe. I was booking models. I was booking shoot location. I was going to the shoot. I was getting all the props. I was putting together the entire magazine. I was doing all the writing of the magazine.
Fully
doing the launch.
producing.
Yeah, like every single in and out. And I think I really genuinely cared about the product, and I think that's kind of what made me different. And really, I was like kind of the pioneer. I was like, and I did it all digital and subscription based, which Playboy was still, I think, more printed, and they weren't kind of going into like that subscription based business.
Now they have Centerfold.
I
Interesting.
know. Now all of a sudden they have a subscription based platform. I wonder where they got that idea.
That came out of nowhere. So how did Shag Mag evolve into Shit Show?
So it basically came from an outlet where Shag Mag kind of became this media. It wasn't just the magazine, and it kind of umbrellaed up to be like, what else can we do under this umbrella that embodies the brand Shag Mag and still pushes the envelope and kind of gives us the voice? Because yes, we are great. We love to take pictures, but I still have a brain and I still want to use it, and I still want to talk and dive into those topics that a lot of people don't get to or are scared to. And so I kind of was like, I'll use Shit Show and kind of use my voice more than, and just kind of really, I love picking people's brains as well, and just really talking to people about things they care about, and like having these guests on that maybe, you know, asking them the questions that people don't want to ask.
Yeah. So hindsight is 2020.
It's 2020.
We are now in 2022, where you no longer have Shag Mag.
I no longer.
You no longer have Shit Show.
Mm-hmm.
What has kind of been your turning point as to why you have stopped doing those things, and what is your mentality around kind of focusing less on your physical body and more on your mental body, essentially?
I think the big turning point was I woke up one morning, I think it was last year, 2 years ago. I can't remember when I woke up. I think last year.
Because you're very much quoted to like, I sleep with Shag Mag next to me. I would never give up anything. Like, and now Shag Mag a year later almost is not a thing. So like that's got to be a huge mental shift for you.
I mean, it was never my plan to not be doing Shag. I mean, you take an idea, right? And you make it tangible to where it is literally, I had the magazine printed one time. I remember being in tears because I was like,
it's your baby. I
literally picked this from the sky and made it into something I can hold and flip through. And for me, it was, I woke up one morning and my entire social media was wiped. I had 5 million followers. Shag Mag had almost 1 million followers, or nearly 1 million followers. And I woke up one morning and wiped, gone. First it was my personal one, and then 2 weeks later it was Shag Mag's. I tried literally, if you can think of anything to do to get it back, I tried getting in contact. I ended up getting in contact with the head of social media on the head of Instagram himself, Adam Mazzari, and like tried literally everything I could do, because
he was like, yeah, no,
you can't run a media business without social media. And
No.
I even tried to the point of, we launched, and I think only a few people really know this, a clothing line, Shag Mag. We did a really dope clothing line to where we launched Shag Mag or Shop Shag Mag.
D-Cut literally still wears it.
Yeah, D-Cut still wears it. I love it. Jake still wears it too. But I was like, okay, if they won't let us post the pictures and stuff we take, and I want to say this too, I made sure I would watch Playboy's page when I would go to post, and I would use them as an outline,
a guideline
of like, what if they can get away with blurring. And I sent this to
just a nipple,
literally,
I've
just
seen it. It's
little
like a
blur,
pixelated nipple,
like fully nude girls, and it's still up there. People can still go check it out.
That's my thing, is like, guys, I feel like even a guy posting a woman's body doesn't get as scrutinized as a woman posting her own body. Like, the shit that I've seen go down with different, like, huge people on social media and huge groups on social media, where it's like, okay, you just got so much clout because 4 girls twerked in the beginning of your video, but none of them are tagged.
Yeah.
I would get taken down if I posted myself twerking. I would get taken down if I posted those 4 girls twerking. So why are y'all allowed to monetize off of my naked body, but I can't even think to do that or speak about it?
It's such a hard world to navigate, because these platforms have all the power, but they rely, like, the creators give them all the content, but they still have all the power. And so I remember being like, I can't run a media business without social media. And I remember, like I said, using Playboy as a guideline of like, and I didn't even go as close to what they were getting away with. I was like, I'm going to stay back. And so the fact that they could still exist and I got wiped, I was like, you know what? I'm still not going to give up. I'm still going to keep going. Because I remember I had multiple employees under me during a time of COVID and a pandemic. I didn't want to lay off. Like, these people are relying on me. And so I remember being like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try. So we launched an entire clothing line. Within an hour of launching Shag Mag Shop, gone. Disappeared, disabled. We couldn't even launch because I was like, I'll just use clothes. So I'll literally won't
like
post
weed
a body.
Places do, like weed shops do.
I'll use where we're posting t-shirts and sweatshirts that just, I don't know if it was the name Shag Mag was just completely banned.
Yeah, probably.
But within an hour, taken down. I tried restarting a Shag Mag account, taken down. I tried restarting my own Instagram account, again, taken down. The account I have nowadays I think is like my 3rd or 4th try of like restarting social media. But I remember it's not in my mentality to ever be like, I'm gonna give up. So I was like, I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna keep trying this, because it was my baby. And it, still to this day, the amount of things I've learned running a very it still to me is a success, because it taught me.
No one can negate that Shag Mag was successful.
Yeah, and it was a venture backed, like, I don't think people understand, like, I was venture backed by some of the biggest venture capital of like in Silicon Valley. I had people really believe in this just as much as I believed in it. And so it sucks though to like, there is no answer. It wasn't that, I just don't feel like doing it anymore. It was, I've tried and I hit a dead end after dead end after dead end. And while other people that were doing the exact same replica of what I was doing were still able to exist, and still, it just is it's a shady business. And I still don't have answers. I still can't get answers. And so just kind of like, imagine someone just knocks on the door, closes your business. You have a restaurant right next to you that does the same exact thing, but they just say like, "Hey, we're just gonna shut you down,
see the rats
and we're not
there.
gonna give you any answers." Like, and it's just like, what? And also in a world to live, like, we live in a world where we still identify with our social media.
It's your personal value.
So
at
to
this point,
wake
honestly.
up and literally have it's almost, in a weird way, it's almost like I didn't exist.
Like someone broke and entered into your house, and like you walked in and your house was empty. All the shit you had built over the past 4 years, all the things you had collected, like everything was gone.
And it's in a way, when I remember waking up, and it sounds so like, just like surface level. It just sounds just like
it's
stupid.
Not, because people with like 1,000 followers that have just had their account since high school and love the memories that they have get upset. So like, imagine if this was also your income.
It was income, and it also like the pressure of having employees, and just like people was seeing the rise of Shag Mag and how successful it was. And just like, I remember waking up and being like it was like a gut feeling, almost like a just terrible feeling. But I do look back now, and it's such a blessing, because I was so heavily identifying as that Julia Rose and that in Shag Mag and Shit Show. And it's almost like, okay, now you can reinvent yourself. Now you can decide like what to do from here. And it's like, I got to sit there. I remember sitting there. I remember I was on the stairs and it was raining, and I was in this house and I was all alone, and I was just like, okay, what am I going to do now? And just kind of like, I can sit here and I can feel sorry for myself and I can cry and keep crying, which I did do. But I was like, and then I can get up and I can say, what can I do now? Like, this isn't going to stop me. Whoever did this, whoever took the accounts down, it's not going to stop me. And they can't rob me of my identity because I'm still Julia Rose. And Julia Rose is going to build another fucking business, and it's going to be just as big, if not bigger.
So I feel like there's like kind of this divide that you're at right now where it's like the Julia Rose that I know has like a messy bun and an oversized t-shirt and like workout shorts and is squatting and hip thrusting and like reading books and like taking her dog out versus like if you Google Julia Rose, it is a glamazon topless woman on the internet. So how do you feel like that kind of dichotomy that you live, those kind of parallel lives have affected you to this point where it's like, no, you're not the girl that really does shag mag anymore and is always naked and has her boobs out, but that is still what lives on the internet of you. How do you kind of deal with that in your day-to-day life where you're not really that person anymore that's just like, I don't see you squat and then like take a topless picture in the mirror. Like that's very much like not who you are anymore, but it's who's still alive on the internet. Like how do you kind of deal with people's perception of you based off who they know you as versus who you truly are?
It literally makes me like teary-eyed because I've really, most recently, like these last couple weeks have really dove into like who is Julia Rose, because I have put on this persona and it was almost to me like there is very part of me, like the part of me that is free, right? And like when I grew up in a very conservative family, I just kind of questioned like, why can the boys do it and the girls can't? Like that is still very much me, but it's not all of me. And I think I use that as a shell to really protect myself, because it's easy to put on a persona and have people hate that persona. It's easy for people to be like, oh, she's this and that, and maybe like, you don't even know who I am deep down inside. It's way harder for me to put on. I don't let a lot of people see those real authentic sides of me that you get to see, because for them to hate on the Julia Rose in a corner reading a book with her, glasses and hair in a bun, to get hated on that version of me is way harder.
It's
and
more painful.
And yeah, to then like, oh, they're calling me X, Y, and they don't even know. They don't know me.
Like, oh, you think I'm a bimbo? That's because my entire image was to make you think I was a bimbo, so you subscribed.
Yeah.
And you're here. Look at you. Like, but you're seeing a portion of me that I wanted to show you. So I wanted to show you a bimbo and you saw a bimbo. But if I show you the real me and you don't like that person, what does that say? So I think you're kind of in this spot where it's like, do I show the real me and potentially get, it's even in BS, like, do I show the real me and get critiques for that? Or do I just like play into the role that I've kind of played into to get to this point that I'm at?
But then it's a good question. But then I reached that point too of, and I think that's what I'm kind of going through right now, is if you don't let a lot of people, even fans or whatever, see that authentic side of you, then you feel even more alone, because you're like, okay, well, no one knows who I am. So then it's kind of like you have this fan base built off this persona, but you're not really this persona. So it's like, then you just kind of feel like, why? Like, I have fans, but my fans don't know.
Care.
They care, but they don't know me. They don't know who Julia Rose is. And that's kind of the shift that I'm able to take now and that I'm starting to take. It's a very painful one, because I just haven't wanted to do it. It's been way easier to be, I'm Julia Rose, tongue out, middle fingers in the air, I don't give a fuck. But I do give a fuck.
And now I'm Julia Rose, you think?
That's literally the Julia Rose.
You
so
know?
now I'm kind of shifting, and like I'm in that limbo stage of how can I authentically still, because that Julia Rose is a part of me, but it's not all of me, and I want to start showing people the different sides.
I think that you and I both get this thing, because I was very much the same. Like, I'm the first one to skinny dip. I'm the first one to be out there. But I feel like kind of two things happened in my life. One, I started realizing that, like, yeah, I'm the bitch that's down to like skinny dip, but it was always a skinny dip for me. It was never a skinny dip so people could subscribe and people could see, and for men at the end of the day. So when you kind of make that switch to being subscription based, it takes like, I'm topless because I'm proud, to like, I'm topless so I can get an income. And that just completely changes it. That on top of like really having someone that values you honestly in your life. And it's not so much that like, we don't know what men are thinking when we put those types of images out. Like, I mean, we
kind of know what they're thinking.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we know what's happening, but to have someone that we care about be like, hey, this is what men are thinking, and do you really want them to think this about you? And like, I look at you like this, like, I think you are all these amazing things. Like, to see yourself through the lens of someone that truly loves you and cares about you and wants the best for you, it kind of starts to like tip things and like, okay, I'm not really thinking about like, how do I get out of Texas anymore? I'm not really thinking about like, how do I make it? Like, how do I do these things? I'm thinking about like, what will my daughter want to see?
Yeah.
Like, it really starts to change your perspective of like, it's not like, oh, my man doesn't want me to be topless. And like, I'm sure part of it is that because like, obviously no man really wants their woman like titties out to the world, but there's this certain thing where you like start to see yourself of like, would I want my daughter to be topless? Do I want my daughter to be doing this? When my daughter is like, oh, what did you do, mom? What do I want to tell her? And it's like this kind of shift that you make as you enter your late 20s. You start going closer to your 30s where you're like, what longevity am I leaving? Like, would I want my daughter to take over running Shag Mag? Would I actually want that? Would I want her to do X, Y, and Z? Like, you start thinking about these things and more of like the morality of what you're going through in your life and kind of start to shift things of like, what do I want to do when I'm 50? Like, you look at Susie, who is like the most amazing freaking therapist in the world. Shout out Susie. Where it's like, when I'm Susie's age, what the fuck do I want to be doing? You know, like, she seems so happy and so chill. Like, how do I get closer to being more accepting of myself and like what type of role? Because you can't be Susie's. I mean, you can be Susie's age, like titties out, but it's more so for the movement and less so for the sex appeal. It's like, I feel like you kind of made this change where you're like, okay, I want people to see me for me and less as like just see me and sexualize me off the rip.
Yeah. What's the question? I'm like, yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
I mean, like, I feel like the question, we've pretty much covered it, is just like, how does nude modeling like affect you in the long run?
I mean, I definitely think, like you said, would you want your daughter running Shag Mag, or what does your daughter think? Or like, to me, it's not really like I'd love if my daughter came into us like I wanted to run a business like that, I'd support her 100%. And when it comes from a partner, Jake has more pushed the envelope of like when he actually got to know the authentic real me of like, I think he was more like challenging, like, this is great, and he knew what he was getting into when dating me. Like, the first conversation Jake had, I actually asked him for business advice. It was around Shag Mag, and of course once you're like long-term dating, things change and stuff, but it was more like, I think he really got to see who I was, and he was like, you're more than this. Like, it's fine that you do this, but like, be more than this. And so at first it is painful. It's like, oh damn, like, okay, like, it's challenging, and it's like, but in the long run, appreciate a partner who is going to push me past comfort. And like, comfort to me, like I said, was putting on that persona, doing what I had to do. And I think now, sitting in the chair that I'm in now, I'll never say like I regret something, because obviously, like, I'm sitting here right now in this moment because of every tiny decision that I made leading up to this moment. But what I will say is, I will challenge women in today's age, because I feel like it's now, and I played a part in this, and that is one thing that like I want to be more vocal about, is to challenge women to become more than their bodies. It's okay if that is truly what brings you joy, and you are free with your body, because that is how I am. It wasn't something that was forced. It was more of like, you don't have to just be that. Like, and don't just do it because you feel pressured or you know it's easy. If it's something that you actually enjoy doing, by all means, go out there, do it. But if you do have other things that are maybe harder and more difficult, that are your actual passion, try doing that first. Like, or do it at the same time, but like, you don't just have to do that. And it does put you in a box. And I feel like we've kind of labeled it in this weird way of like, it's empowering, do this, but like, is it empowering if you're making those decisions because you feel like you have to, or because you want to? And so, like I said, I love for women to really claim who they are, claim their bodies, because it is your body, it is your choice. You can do whatever you want. But I will say, sitting in this chair, to do more than that, and to find avenues and ways to like be more than just your body, and like, really, because we're women are, and that's one thing I loved about Shag Mag, is like when we would interview like college girls, or we did Small Town Sweetheart, or even with our models, and asking them questions like, what are you passionate about? What would people be surprised? And some of the girls had crazy like hobbies, or just like things you would never guess about these women. And like, it really made me appreciate women and just how beautiful creatures we are. Like, we struggle so much, and we go through so much different things, and the ups and downs of being a woman. And I wish I would have done a better job in Shag Mag really embodying that and showing that, but I still got to create a safe place for women to, have that outlet. But I would say, just like being more vulnerable and knowing that like you are more than your body. It's okay if you're posting that and you're doing it, but just know that like, yeah, you'll get to the age where I am sitting right now and being like, I want to be known for more than my body. I want to become more than my body, and it's okay that I did the things that I did, but now how do I, you know, make those changes and be taken seriously for who I am and really give people, like, let them see me for me and not just on what you see on the outside.
I feel like you made a lot of that shift when you did ayahuasca, and you told me that you had that
oh
like
my
whole
God.
thing where you're like, I'm a woman. Like,
no one knows. This is the only time I've talked about ayahuasca.
No way.
No one. I mean, besides like we talked about in our group,
like little things, yeah.
but I've never. Oh.
Alrighty.
Okay, we're back on.
So, you've never spoken about ayahuasca?
No.
You've never spoken about how that was like kind of the moment that I saw you. First of all, funniest story ever that I have to talk about first was when you texted me and you tried to get me to throw you snacks over the wall while you're at your whole ayahuasca retreat or discovery moment.
Okay, yeah. So we were in Costa Rica at the same time. And when you do ayahuasca, they put you on this super strict diet. Like, and you know me, like I'm already like not on a super strict diet. Like I literally
this girl eats like refried beans and fucking baked potatoes every night and chicken nuggets.
First of all, it's baked beans. It's not refried beans.
Listen, it's beans.
Yeah, but they put you on like literally you eat lettuce. They don't even give you like dressing. Like the dressing's like lemon or like you don't really have salt, no sugar. Like they put you on a really strict diet so the medicine can do. It's like vegan on a whole nother level.
It's clean. It's raw vegan usually.
Ugh. But so literally and you're there for 5 days. I think we were there, and so I think it got to like the third night, and I was literally fiending, and I was like, Tori, I know you're in Costa Rica. How far?
She airdrops me her location. She's like, how far are you? Can you throw candy over the wall, please?
I literally was begging. I was like, I just need sugar, man.
I need it.
And like you didn't even pull through for me.
I was 2.5 hours away. I was not driving 5 hours to give you like a chocolate bar, first of all. But that when I saw you after that, you were like, I just had this amazing experience where like for hours I was just like, this is what it's like to be a woman.
Bro, it was ayahuasca, first of all, is not for it is the hardest, one of the hardest things I have ever. It's like just like boot camp for your brain and your body and
trauma.
I've never really talked about like I definitely with our giant mushroom here, but like I definitely dabble into like mushrooms and like psychedelics, and like I've only started doing it the last couple years of really going internal and doing that work. But ayahuasca was the most intense like internal work. They basically, if no one knows what ayahuasca is, it's I believe from a vine, and it's do they consider ayahuasca a psychedelic? I don't know if it's like they call it medicine. So
it's a plant medicine. Yeah. It's a psychedelic. Essentially, it's mixed with other ones that
they make it all differently. But we basically went to a retreat in Costa Rica, Jake and I, and they put you in this thing called a maloca, which is a wooden structure, and you're there with I think like 20-ish people. I knew a couple of them, and you're led by like a shaman, and you basically go up, you bring them your cup, they bless it, and it's like a little shot glass, and you just the first night everyone was like, all the people that had done it before were like, because they're like they taste gross. Nasty. And I did my first shot and I was like, oh, this isn't bad, but what you realize is your body then takes the taste of like the work you're about to do, and it was like oh, like it like rejects it at first. Like even now I literally want to like
because they know you didn't know it was coming. They were like, oh, I know what the fuck is coming. But even just
talking about it just makes me like
clam up.
Yeah. And so you go sit on your mat. It's in complete darkness. It's like at 8 p.m. and we're in just like the rainforest in Costa Rica, and it's just silent and pitch black for like a good hour, and then the medicine kind of starts to hit you, and it's just kind of like I remember having to breathe through it. And at first they say like ayahuasca has like more like a personality, and it's a very feminine personality, and I remember just this like warmth. It was just like pure ecstasy of like, this feels amazing came over me. And it was like I remember feeling I wore like sweats and a jacket. I had stripped down to literally like shorts and like a bra, and I was just like rubbing my body and being like, this is what it feels like to be a woman. Like this is awesome. Like I get to be a woman, and like I get to like feel my body, and I'm like, oh, I just loved every inch. And I was like, why? And I remember asking the medicine, I was like, why can't I feel this way all the time?
Yeah.
And literally the answer to me was, it's too powerful. And for a woman to feel her full self all the time is too powerful. And I remember thinking, and it sounds fucking crazy, but I remember Cleopatra like coming to me and sitting next to me, and I remember being like, this is what you like, this is awesome. And she goes, what lies between your hips can be the fall of two kingdoms. And I remember being like, damn, I guess you're kind of right. Like, we don't give ourselves enough credit. Like, I literally left there, I'm like, I'm a fucking woman. Like, why? Like, we create humans. We are literally the portal. And I got the tattoo now, the kingdom of heaven lies within, because I'm like, it's so true. Like, I love, like, don't get me wrong, like, men are great sometimes, but women, like, we produce human beings. Like, why do we not get, like, free everything? Why do I not, they have military discount? We should get, no, don't put that there, because people be like, oh,
like, at least tampons and pads should be free. Yeah, we don't choose that shit. Like,
I don't know, it was just, like, so powerful to really feel in my body and just, like, fully appreciate it. And then I, of course, was like, I want to go get another cup. And so I, like, walked up there. They don't tell you that.
You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, most people that are professionals don't get another cup. And I was like, I'm going to go get another cup. Took another cup. I did not come back to my body until 4 hours after the ceremony had ended. And I was, like, full, just, like, I don't really remember a whole lot of what I was doing in my body, but apparently I was, like, screaming things. I was, and the craziest part of the whole trip was the next day I had people come up to me and they're like, you're such a beautiful singer. Do you sing all the time? And I was like, I don't sing at all. What are you talking about? I never sing. And they're like, you were singing. So the shaman sings random ikaros, which are like these prayers, but they're in a completely different language. And I only speak English, but I was singing the ikaros word for word on tune with him. Like, and I was just like, they thought he had brought up someone to sing with him. And I was just completely just going along, singing, and
past life.
Yeah, it was really, like, it really opens up all these doors of, like, we're on a fucking spinning rock in the middle of space. And, like, that's why when I talk about things like getting taken off Instagram and, like, when you zoom out, you're like, what the fuck is Instagram, man? Like, why am I holding so much weight in this identity that it's not even who I am? So, like, that I want to take the opportunity to, like, do things like ayahuasca and, like, really, like, who am I at the end of the day?
I feel like you also took a deep dive in that by going off of birth control, which is, like, a huge thing that we both talk about, is how I'm about to go off it and how you've come off of it, and just, like, what your body has gone through after being on it since you hit puberty. And they're like, oh, your skin is breaking out, birth control. Oh, this is happening, birth control. Everything, the answer to everything is fucking birth control, or, like, the fucking Gardasil shot. I don't understand. But what your body goes through as you're trying to get off these drugs that you're essentially either orally taking every day, you have an IUD that's leaking it into your system, or you have whatever it is, you're getting a hormone every day. Like, what has it been like for you coming off of this kind of Western medicine of how to control your ability to create children?
It's definitely, like, I will say, and by all means, I'm not a, like, doctor.
No, we're not doctors, obviously. We're just, so women that have gone through the shit. So
but I will say, why is it, and I even coming off of it, I tried getting off of it multiple times. I'm officially off of it for, like, 6 months now, 5 months. Why is that the immediate response when a girl starts having sex or a girl starts breaking out? Like, why is it immediately like, oh, just go on the pill? And, like, it's, like, such a, just do this. And, like, when you find out what is actually in the pill and what you're actually taking, and it's scary. And it's scary that we have girls in it. We're so, like, get on birth control, blah, 13 blah, blah.
years
it
old.
It clears your skin. It makes your boobs bigger. Like, oh, I'll take birth control. When you have to get off this shit and you realize what it has been doing to your body, like, I was on it, everything freaked out for, like, a good 2-3 weeks. And I was like, something is wrong with me. And I almost got back on it. I was like, no, I'm going to stick it out. And that's when I did ayahuasca. And I remember all the women, God, I get chills thinking about it. The women came and laid their hands. They just all felt the need. They didn't even know I was going through this. They all came, laid their hands, like, on, just, like, around my uterus and on my stomach, and they were saying prayers, and it literally felt like my body was just, like, healing itself. Because, and, like, why do we push girls, again, if it's something you want to do and you feel like birth control is for you, whatever, I just feel like there's so much a better way. Like, we should find out why are we not taught about our phases and ovulation. And, like I talked to a woman the other day that has, like, 5 kids, and I asked her about, I was like, talking about ovulation and stuff. She's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You have 5 kids. Like, how do you not know? Why are we not taught this? Like, we're taught sex ed. We're taught about a man's penis,
a condom on a banana.
We need to talk about in school about women and our phases and what it's like what we go through. And, like I've been even diving into the phases of, like, what you eat around your phase and, like, your workout, and, like, really, really owning what it's like to be a woman. Because I feel like today's day, they just are like, oh, here she goes. But no, like, I'm here, I'm living it, and I want to figure out more about it.
That's why I feel like better half is so important, because it's literally like, yes, so much shit is talked about on BS, but at the end of the day, like, there's the whole female side. Like, there's the moon and the sun. There's the female and the masculine energy. Like, everyone has female and masculine energy. But I would just like to take the second, as we're about to wrap up, because you have to go into shooting your other shit. What is your advice to little girl in Texas, 11, 12 years old, coming to her sexual revolution? She wants to go to LA. She wants to be famous. She wants to do whatever she wants to do. What's your advice to the small town girl that wants to make it out and do big things?
Ooh, so much. I mean, if I give it in a couple minutes, I'm like, ground yourself. Don't forget where you came from is number one to me. Don't forget the small town girl and carry her with you, because that small town girl is going to get you places. And don't become oversaturated by this world and the smoke and mirrors. Don't trust every single person you meet, and just trust your gut. Like, that's what I wish I would have just done more, is like, like deep side, you're fully capable of making decisions for yourself, and you should trust that. And like, just realize that most people's opinions are there for them to get something out of it. So really carry that small town Texas girl with you and thrive in it, and don't try and change, because if you become too not yourself or unauthentic, like, people can sense that. And so just really, it sounds so cheesy, but be you, and be open and willing, and don't be so hard on yourself. That would be my number one thing, because you don't have to be perfect, and you can be perfectly imperfect and still get just as far.
I love that. Is there anything else that you want to let the people know that you got coming up, or that you're doing, working on?
We got stuff going on. Jake's Fight's coming up. I don't know when this is coming out, but Jake's Fight's October 29th. Go support my man. We'll be there.
We'll be there.
Ready to go. Go watch Better Half. I don't know if it'll even be out, but I'm launching a whole thing where we get conversations like this with girlfriends, wives. Tori just was my first guest on it.
Hell yeah.
And watch BS with Jake Paul, and just keep being you, you know?
All right. She is Julia Rose for president on Instagram.
Vote
Thank
for me
you
for president.
so much for giving me your time. I know you have very little amounts of it with your new little puppy and all the things you got going on. I am so appreciative of you. And I'm Tori 212 Green on all platforms. Tea with Tori podcast on Instagram. And I will see you Spillers next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye, guys.